Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, council members, city officials, also our home audience. I would like to welcome you to the November 14th of the Chillicothe City Council meeting. We have 7 items on our agenda this evening. If you would, Mr. Fawson, please continue with the roll call of members.
Chapman.
Here.
Kroll.
Here.
Patrick.
Here.
Neal.
Here.
Kearney.
Here.
Gray.
Here.
Florima. Corcoran.
Here.
Clay.
Here.
Thank you, Mr. Fawson. This evening, for our Pledge of Allegiance, we have a scout that's coming in to do it, to lead us on our pledge. His name's Evan Friend. He's with the Troop 14 of the St. Mary's Church. He's a first-class scout, and I'd like to welcome Evan to the meeting this evening, and very glad that you came in. If you would, Evan, please lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Kevin, I want to thank you very much for coming. At this time, the minutes of the previous meeting have been distributed for review. Do we have a motion to accept the minutes? Mr. Clay, seconded by Mr. Patton. Roll call on that motion, please.
Chapman.
Yes.
Kroll.
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
Neal.
Yes.
Kearney.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Corcoran.
Yes.
Clay.
Yes.
Thank you. The minutes have been accepted. At this time, we have reports from our committees. Do we have any committee reports, please? Mrs. Gray.
Thank you, President Arnold. The Human Resources Committee has 3 items on this evening's agenda. Item number 2, which is a first reading on an ordinance to authorize and appropriate $17,500 to cover the cost of public entity risk services insurance deductibles for 2 individual claims. And at the appropriate time, due to the time lag, and I apologize on behalf of the committee for the time lag, I will ask to waive the 3-read rule. Item number 3, which is a first reading on an ordinance to authorize the utilities director to hire 1 temporary part-time worker within the utilities department and to appropriate $14,000 to fund said position. At the appropriate time, I will also ask to waive the 3-read rule. The item number 4, which is a first reading on ordinance to amend section 151.02 of the codified ordinances of the city of Chillicothe, Ohio, titled Court Personnel, to add 1 court aide position. And there was, during the course of the Human Resources Committee, 4 questions that were raised in reference to this particular request. I do have the answers for that, and the answers are, the questions are with regard to the number of appointed positions within the municipal court. There are currently 14 positions pursuant to City Ordinance 151.02. 13 of those positions are currently filled. 1 part-time bailiff position is vacant. These 14 positions are in the unclassified service. The question then came, has this request gone through the Civil Service Commission, i.e. classified versus unclassified, appointed versus non-appointed? This position is in the unclassified service appointed by the judge or judges as set forth in the court's entry dated 9/19/2016, establishing the position of court aide. The judges understand that as the appointing authority for this position, see Ohio Revised Code 1901.33, the job description is not required to be filled, or filed rather, with the Civil Service Commission. Clarification was needed also on whether the positions are classified versus unclassified. That answer has already been provided. Another question came up with regard to the request for 1 position or 2. Clarification that the request is for 1 additional position. The deputy clerk position that will be vacated constitutes number 9 of the 10 deputy clerk positions set forth in City Ordinance 151.02. The court intends to fill the number 9 deputy clerk position in the year 2017. The question then was, what are the budget implications or justification for this request in the 2017 budget? The breakdown, salary breakdown for court employees for 2016 has not been received with regard to accurate information, but since 2014, 6 veteran employees have retired or resigned, and entry-level employees now hold those positions. That notes the salary and fringes that are expended for municipal court in 2015 were $111,933 less than in the year 2013. So those positions that have been brought in at a lower amount than previous positions due to retirement. And the last question that was on this particular item, what is the status of collections for the year 2016 to date? The court has collected approximately $817,100 in court costs and fines revenue to the city's general fund. The collection agency receipts account for about $122,000 of that amount. If it is the will of council, I will request, if these questions and answers are amenable to you, to waive the 3-read rule and pass this legislation tonight. If so, then I will request at the appropriate time to waive the 3-read rule to pass this piece of legislation if there are no further questions, comments. Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor?
I was having trouble just keeping track of those numbers. Do you have that just in writing we can see?
Yes. If indeed you're not comfortable in passing this legislation this evening, we can go for another read and pass it at the next council meeting. And I believe Judge Street is here if there are any questions that need to be posed to the municipal court.
Is it appropriate at this particular time to ask my question?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. And I don't know whether or not that I heard you correctly or not, but you indicated that all 14 positions are unclassified.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
They are currently appointed.
They are current appointed positions.
Correct.
Is,
13 of those positions are filled.
okay, is that by ordinance?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, are there at any time positions in the court that would be classified?
Judge?
I don't have the exact number. There's about 25 positions in the municipal court. 14 of them are in the unclassified section. 10 are in the classified section. Those are all the deputy clerks. And there must be a couple others that are in unclassified too. The only classified positions we have are the deputy clerks positions. And there's 10 of those. Currently 9 are filled, and I think we've dropped to 8 if we fill this position, court aide, we'll shift a deputy clerk into this current court aide position. So then we would be down to 8 deputy clerks. And we do intend to fill that back up to 9 as soon as we can, if there's funding available for that. Any other questions?
So Judge, just so I'm making sure I understand, it's basically create the position, fill it now, and occupy it as soon as possible, increasing the total staffing by 1 as soon as possible.
Correct. It won't increase the total staffing immediately, because we will be short a deputy clerk for a time, which we're willing to do because we found this court aide is going to do a number of things, but mainly it's in the probation department with the new drug court and just all the kinds of, I mean, our probation officers currently each have about 1,200 or 1,300 people on probation that they're managing their cases for, which is just completely impossible to do. They haven't had any help in that office. This court aide is going to help them with a little secretarial stuff, going to do some probation stuff. She's also going to do court reporting for our magistrate. So she's doing a number of different things, and we just feel better if we can have somebody that we can assign various places where needed, although it's mainly going to be in the probation to help those guys out, answer the phones and do drug tests and interview folks and all those kinds of things. But it's a position that we just desperately need because we need more probation. And hopefully, you know, we are looking at grants and things like that to maybe build up the probation department at some point, because trying to ask 2 probation officers to supervise 2,500 people is just really unmanageable. But they do the best they can, and we're going to keep at that, but that's just the way it is. So we would, if you're so inclined, we would ask you to pass that, create that court aide position so we can go ahead and take care of that job, and then we'll worry about filling the court, or the deputy clerk spot as soon as we can after that.
It's, according to what I was provided by Ms. Large, they don't plan to fill that position that's being vacated by this particular action until 2017.
All right, we're not going to do
By
it
this
immediately.
action.
Yes. This action moves someone from a current position into this position that they've created, which creates a vacancy. The vacancy that has been created will not be filled until 2017.
So are any of these positions posted, any of your unclassified positions posted, or are they just, I pick someone and I put them in the position?
Well, we've done all of those things.
Okay.
You know, in the last year or so, we've hired 2 bailiffs, a probation officer, in the unclassified position. At least 2 of those were posted. We've hired a court reporter, that was posted. But I think we've also hired folks where we just had somebody that we wanted in mind, and we went and hired, asked them if they were interested, and hired them. So we've done both.
The reason I'm asking that question because I think it's important that the entire community be exposed to some of the positions that are in the court, since the court handles a wide variety of people. And it always makes people feel more comfortable if we have a little more diversity. And so if some of those positions that are unclassified, or you feel classified, that you would see fit where you'd be able to try to bring in a little diversity, it would certainly, I think, enhance the court in the community, because it's a very, I personally speaking, and I've been in most of the courts, it does not represent this community.
This position, the court aide, we're not going to post it. We do have somebody in mind for that who's been helping with the probation department for a while anyway. And we're going to move her into that position, so that's our intention. That's not going to be posted. When we replace her in the deputy clerk's office, that's a civil service position, which will have to go through the civil service protocol to be appointed into that position. So that's posted and through testing and so forth. That's the way those are filled.
Thank you.
Alicia, these are all funded through the courts, right?
Correct.
Alicia,
Yes,
can you
ma'am.
give me the numbers again on the delinquent fines and fees?
To date, the court has collected approximately $817,100 in court costs and fines revenue to the city's general fund. Collection agency receipts account for about $122,000 of that amount.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Judge.
If nothing further, then I will ask for the 3-read rule. And at the appropriate time, we'll pass this evening, and that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gray. Anybody else have committee reports this evening? Mr. Kroll?
I'm filling in for Joel. So you can imagine I'm wearing a Cubs jersey. But Joel couldn't be with us tonight. He sends his regards. He asked me to cover the items for safety service. And so there are 3 items on tonight's agenda. Item number 1 is to temporarily suspend the maximum hours established for one part-time security officer in the Chillicothe Municipal Court. This asks that the court has 2 part-time security positions. Each one is limited to 1,040 hours per year. Occasionally, one of those officers will exceed that limit because he is needed to fill in for vacations and other reasons. This year, Officer William Stansberry will need to exceed his limit of 1,400 hours. He needs approximately 200 hours to finish out 2016 and only has 77 hours available before he reaches the limit. In addition, there are part-time security officers. We have part-time bailiffs. The bailiffs will not reach their full amount for the year, so there will not be a need for any additional funding. We simply shift hours from the bailiffs to the security officer to make certain the total salary budget is not changed. To avoid interruption to payroll for the employees, the court requests that the council pass this ordinance at its first reading. Item number 5 is also at first reading. It is to appropriate funds for the purchase and installation of a commercial water heater for use within the Chillicothe Fire Department at Station 1. And since they use this to supply all the hot water for the station, including the living areas and their laundry, which they use this to make sure all of their uniforms and equipment is taken care of, I will ask at the appropriate time that we also waive the 3-read rule for item number 5. Item number 6 is to authorize the modification of metered parking zones and replacement or removal of parking meters and amend section 353.02 of the codified ordinances. And Mr. Farima has asked that that go to 3 readings, so we will not vote on that tonight. That concludes the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cole. Mr. Tapp.
Thank you, President Arnold. Engineering Committee has one item, number 7, for the first read. It is actually free to the city for the ODOT to inspect the bridges and the overpass on in the city limits. Mayor, do you know if this has to be passed tonight? Is it of a dated? I mean, I got emergency legislation on it because I wasn't sure of the.
Yeah, I think Tom indicated that it was best to pass tonight. I'm not 100%, but I think it's got a 2016 deadline.
Okay, well, and besides that, it's not costing us anything?
Well, yeah, it's kind of a gift horse situation.
It's free, jump on it.
Yeah, I think there was some wording in there that wanted it expedited as soon as possible.
Okay, then that's appropriate. Fine, I will ask the way to be resolved.
Okay.
I am also currently working on 3 other pieces of legislation, but they're all works in progress. And where they get passed by the end of the year is kind of doubtful. But I'm working on it. So that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Tappan. Any other committee reports? Yes, Mr. Cole.
The City Services Committee does not have any items on the agenda tonight, but I did want to report on item 16-119, a request for legislation to address the current building situations with the city service building and facilities and to determine possible solutions. We had a committee meeting on that assignment tonight. We looked at a variety of needs that the city has out there as far as our facilities are concerned. Most importantly was the need to get the city services employees taken care of for the winter. And so we are going to look at the cost of winterizing and making the armory ready for winter. And hopefully those numbers come back favorably and we can move forward on that. So I hope to have something on the agenda soon. And that concludes my report.
Very good, thank you, Mr. Cole. Any other committee reports this evening? Not seeing any. We'll move into reports from our officials. Mayor Feeney.
Thank you, President Arnold. Just to review tonight's items. Item 1, I would support passage and waiver of the 3-read rule. This is a something that happens fairly regularly in the court, and they do a nice job of managing the budgets of those part-time people. So I think the waiver of the 3 read rule is appropriate. Same with item 2. Those are basically settlements that the city agreed to. We just need to pay those 2 individual claims, and I would request and support waiver of the 3 read rule. Item number 3, Utilities Director Johnson presented to, I think, the committee the reasons for the need to have this temporary person, mostly related to extended health leave. I will point out that I request and support waiver of the 3 read rule tonight. We'll probably be readdressing this first of the year because I think that those extended absences will carry into the new year, but this should get us through the next 6 weeks. Item 4, the court aide position, I would support that ordinance and passage tonight. I think, especially in light of the strain on the court system with drug cases and that sort of thing, the number of people in probation managing that load be appropriate. If there are budgetary concerns, that's a future issue that we can address at the time, but I would support passage and waiver of that 3 read rule tonight. Item 5, fire department has been able to get their water heater back on several occasions, but several occasions it's taken a day or 2. I've had Chief Creed look into all the options, but it's pretty clear that we need a new water heater over there. As it is getting colder, that I would support passage and waiver of the 3 read rule. That is a safety levy capital issue as well. And finally, item 7, like I said, I think there's no real reason to not pass that tonight. My only other comment is, as everybody knows, we're well into November. We have not had any budget hearings yet. I have discussed with the auditor, with finance council, with finance committee chair, and then individually with some council members. I will be proposing that we pass a temporary budget this year. Ohio Revised Code permits a municipality to essentially see where revenue and expense end in a year and pass a budget that gets you through the first quarter of the year. So temporary budget allows for operations up to April 1st of a year. And so I'm proposing a schedule that looks something like this. A budget hearing on or around November 28th, where we will present the temporary budget. We present any capital purchases that are necessary in the first quarter. There are certain funds that are dedicated to capital that will, you could appropriate a year's worth of capital purchases, it wouldn't matter. But essentially, a budget hearing on the 28th, and then in between the 28th and the 12th, which is the first council meeting in December, the opportunity for questions, any further finance committee meetings if necessary. So first read on the 12th, and then second read on the 27th, which I believe is when our second council meeting will be in December. And then once the auditor closes out the books, we get our final certificate of resources. We tackle some of the bigger, particularly capital items and areas of need like additional personnel in departments in the new year, resolving that before the first. I think it's a responsible approach, especially with the 2 new tax levies that we have. The amount of spending we've done in street construction over the last couple of years is well in excess of $2 million. We've done hiring based on the safety levy, and I think this gives us the opportunity to find, where we settle in with almost a year of new income tax. And as everybody knows, that end of the year flurry is a chaotic time. I can speak from experience, and we've added a special layer this year to the auditor's office with the new onboarding software. So I think this affords a little bit of cushion for the auditor's office as well. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mayor Finney. Our auditor, Ms. Spatnagle, if you would, if you wanted to turn that microphone a little towards you. Sorry.
Well, I'm in support of extending the budget, or not extending the budget, but asking for a temporary budget. I think that it is definitely the responsible thing to do. The auditor's office is going through a new software implementation with some of the facility upkeep that we need to do. So I ask that that is taken into consideration, and that concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. Spatnagle. And our law director, Ms. Rutherford.
Thank you, President Arnold. The Law Director's Office doesn't have anything to report on this evening.
Okay, all right. I have a couple of things to bring up. I'd like to make an announcement, actually, in behalf of the city, that there is a tree lighting ceremony that is going to be this coming Friday, the 18th. It is going to light the Christmas tree at the head of our park, correct, Randy? And also the lighting the park. This is going to be, like I say, this Friday at the head of the park there at Paint and Water Streets at 6 o'clock. So everybody come down. It's I've seen it several years now, and there's a lot of people, and most of the businesses are open, and it kind of starts the pre-holiday season for the city. It's a nice event, and I think everybody will be pleased to come down. I'll announce it a little later, but Mayor Feeney tipped off, or didn't tip off, but we will kind of make a change of council meeting dates since Christmas falls on a Sunday. We will not have a Monday meeting on the 26th, which is our normal scheduled meeting. It'll be on the 27th instead on Tuesday, regular time at 7:30. And actually, that's all I have really to add. And if I forget at the end of the meeting to say it, happy Thanksgiving to everybody, since we won't be back until after Thanksgiving. This time, it's time for audience participation. I don't think anybody signed in on the sign-in sheet, but if you haven't, you're still welcome to speak. Anybody wanting to address council can. All we need is your name and your address. Rule 21 does limit each speaker to 5 minutes for a presentation, 15 minutes per subject. I will indicate when you're getting close to the end of your 5 minutes so that you can summarize your presentation. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak this evening? Not seeing anybody, we'll move into old business. Does anybody have any old business they'd like to bring up this evening? Not seeing any, we'll move into petitions and correspondence received by the clerk.
Mr. President, I have nothing to report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. New business, does anybody have any new business to bring up this evening? Yes, Ms. Patrick.
I just want to remind people that I think it's the 11th annual Flurry Cox Turkey Trot will be Thanksgiving morning. Race starts at 9 o'clock. Pre-registration is Thanksgiving Eve from 4 to 8 down at the Law Complex. And we'll be down there at 6 in the morning if you want to come early and register the day of the race.
Thank you, Ms. Patrick. Any other new business anybody would like to bring forth? Yes, Ms. Gray.
I would like to make a motion to excuse Mr. Florima.
I have a motion to excuse Mr. Florima, seconded by Mr. Clay. Roll call on that motion.
Tatman,
Yes.
Kroll,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
Neal,
Yes.
Kearney,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Corcoran,
Yes.
Clay.
Yes.
And we have excused Mr. Florina from the meeting this evening. Any other new business from anybody? We've had several committee assignments since the last meeting. I'll quickly kind of run over them here. Some of them are actually on tonight's agenda. Safety Services, request to appropriate $7,283 from unappropriate safety levy capital for a commercial hot water heater in Fire Station 1. Assignment to Engineering, request for legislation to determine proper procedure for regular inspections of fire damper systems and other fire safety measures in city buildings. Request for finance to create a line item in the mayor's budget to be able to accept the wedding ceremony fees so that the fees can be spent at the mayor's discretion. An assignment to city services for legislation to address current building situations with the city service building and facilities and to determine the best solutions. Mr. Clay mentioned that earlier. To engineering, a request for legislation to renew an agreement between the city of Chillicothe and ODOT for work performed within the city limits to inspect the East Main Street overpass, and that is on our agenda tonight. Also on our agenda tonight is a request for legislation to suspend the maximum hours established for one part-time security officer. And an assignment to development is a request for legislation to name an unnamed street off of Stacy Road over by Hernstein's Field and to name it Beth Lane in honor, or Beeth Lane actually, in honor of Homer Beeth. And that's what assignments we've had for this last week. At this time, we move into our legislation. So, Mr. Clausen, whenever you are ready, item number 1, please.
First reading of an ordinance to temporarily suspend the maximum hours established for one part-time security officer for the Chillicothe Municipal Court as established by section 151.02 of the codified ordinances of Chillicothe, Ohio, and declaring an emergency. First reading.
Mr. Kroll,
At this time, I'd ask that we please waive the 3-read rule.
I have a request to waive the 3-read rule, seconded by Mr. Clay. Roll call on the motion to waive the 3-read rule.
Tatman.
Yes.
Kroll.
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
Neal.
Yes.
Kearney.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Corcoran.
Yes.
Clay.
Yes.
We've waived the 3-read rule. Roll call on the ordinance, please.
Tatman.
Yes.
Kroll.
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
Neal.
Yes.
Kearney.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Corcoran.
Yes.
Clay.
Yes.
And that ordinance has passed. Item number 2, please.
First reading of an ordinance authorizing and appropriating funds in the amount of $17,500 to cover the cost of public entity risk services insurance deductibles for 2 individual claims and declaring an emergency. First reading.
Mrs. Gray,
Thank you, President Arnold. At this time, I would like to request to waive the 3-read rule.
I have a motion to waive the 3-read rule, seconded by Mrs. Neal. Roll call on that motion, please.
Tatman.
Yes.
Kroll.
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
Neal.
Yes.
Kearney.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Corcoran.
Yes.
Clay.
Yes.
We've waived the 3-read rule. Roll call on the ordinance, please.
Tatman.
Yes.
Kroll.
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
Neal.
Yes.
Kearney.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Corcoran.
Yes.
Clay.
Yes.
And that ordinance has passed. Item number 3.
First reading of an ordinance authorizing the Utilities Director to hire 1 temporary part-time worker within the Utilities Department, appropriating $14,000 to fund said position and declaring an emergency. First reading.
Mrs. Gray,
Thank you, President Arnold. At this time, I would like to request to waive the 3-read rule.
I have a motion to waive the 3-read rule, seconded by Mrs. Neal. Roll call on that motion, please.
Tatman.
Yes.
Kroll.
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
Neal.
Yes.
Kearney.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Corcoran.
Yes.
Clay.
Yes.
That motion is passed. Roll call on the ordinance, please.
Tatman.
Yes.
Kroll.
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
Neal.
Yes.
Kearney.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Corcoran.
Yes.
Clay.
Yes.
And that ordinance has passed. Item number 4, please.
First reading of an ordinance amending section 151.02 of the codified ordinances of the city of Chillicothe, Ohio, titled Court Personnel, and declaring an emergency. First reading.
Yes, Mrs. Gray.
Thank you, President Arnold. At this time, I would like to request to waive the 3-read rule.
I have a motion to waive the 3-read rule, seconded by Mrs. Corcoran. Roll call on that motion, please.
Tatman.
Yes.
Kroll.
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
Neal.
Yes.
Kearney.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Corcoran.
Yes.
Clay.
Yes.
Now we've waived the 3-read rule. Roll call on the ordinance, please.
Tatman.
Yes.
Kroll.
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
Neal,
Yes.
Kearney,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Corcoran,
Yes.
Clay.
Yes.
And that ordinance has passed. Item number 5, please.
First reading of an ordinance appropriating funds for the purchase and installation of a commercial water heater for use within the Chillicothe Fire Department and declaring an emergency. First reading.
Mr. Kroll,
At this time, I'd ask that we please waive the 3-read rule.
motion to waive the 3-read rule, seconded by Mrs. Patrick. Roll call on that motion.
Tatman,
Yes.
Kroll,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
Neal,
Yes.
Kearney,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Corcoran,
Yes.
Clay.
Yes.
That motion is passed. Roll call on the ordinance.
Tatman,
Yes.
Kroll,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
Neal,
Yes.
Kearney,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Corcoran,
Yes.
Clay.
Yes.
And that ordinance has passed. Item number 6, please.
First reading of an ordinance authorizing the modification of metered parking zones, replacement or removal of parking meters, and amending section 353.02A of the codified ordinances. First reading.
That reading will move forward. And item number 7, please.
First reading of an ordinance consenting to the proposal submitted by the Ohio Department of Transportation to inspect the East Main Street Bridge overpass in order to comply with a Federal Highway Administration mandate and declaring an emergency. First reading.
Mr. Tappan,
At this time, I'd like to request to waive the 3-read rule.
motion to waive the 3-read rule, seconded by Mr. Clay. Roll call on that motion, please.
Chapman.
Yes.
Kroll.
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
Neal.
Yes.
Kearney.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Corcoran.
Yes.
Clay.
Yes.
And then roll call on that ordinance.
Chapman.
Yes.
Kroll.
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
Neal.
Yes.
Kearney.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Corcoran.
Yes.
Clay.
Yes.
And that ordinance has passed. If nobody has anything else to add this evening, that concludes our council business. Do we have a motion for adjournment? Mr. Clay, seconded by Mr. Tappan.
Yeah, Bill's not here, so.
Yeah, you gotta take Joel's place on that. Roll call on adjournment, please.
Chapman.
Yes.
Kroll.
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
Neal.
Yes.
Kearney.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Corcoran.
Yes.
Clay.
Yes.
Everybody have a happy Thanksgiving. See you in 2 weeks.